No, sir.
Okay. And then in whatever date this deposition is, he's talking about April of 1994.
Yes, sir.
You gave that's sworn testimony, not in the court, but there's a court reporter taking it down, just like here. Lawyer present.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they were looking into, DSS was looking into the allegations about all this stuff at that.
Right.
Now, you had a lawyer then, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your lawyer then told you, if you wanted to, you didn't have to answer any questions, right?
That's correct.
Did you answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And, of course, you've come in here and testified here.
Yes, sir.
You testified in December 1994.
Yes, sir.
I can't make you testify, can I?
No, sir.
And no one can make you testify, right?
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Gasser keeps coming back to statements you made to Linwood Librand. He didn't point out any place in your transcript from 1994 or any other time where you have ever admitted to saying anything to Linwood Librand.
That's correct.
Okay. He talked with you about this rattling or congestion in Parker Colson that you heard, and talked about it always being in his head, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you hear all this testimony over the last couple of weeks about the autopsy of Parker Colson?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear what Dr. Smilik had to say about the autopsy of Parker Colson?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear the findings regarding an infection in his lungs, not just by Dr. Smilik, but also by...
Objection, Your Honor. Objection. Of course you heard that. She's in here. He's just giving his closing argument. I just object. I object to the form of the question. He can argue that in closing. Of course she heard that. She's in here. So I object to the form of the question.
If she's already answered the questions, Mr. Strickler, I'd rather you move on. I'm going to overrule this objection, but, you know, we don't need to keep going over and over the same facts.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. No, I don't have very much. You know, Mr. Gasser asked you, I don't even remember in relation to what, he directly recruited, 2246, line 17. You have this from the trial in December of 1994. That's the place where he asks you, where you say you have no explanation as to why you lie, or is that his question to you? I don't have the transcript right in front. Let me take a look at it together. Question. You don't have any explanation for us why you lied. No, I don't. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that say you lied?
No, sir.
Okay. If you answer no, I don't have an explanation, then he says something to you. If you answer yes, I have an explanation, he's going to say something to you. When was the last time you stopped, when did you stop beating your wife? You know, or when did you stop beating your husband? You understand that sort of question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're going to take a break here, but in about an hour, we're going to get the outcome of this case. So we want right now to let you, the viewers, let us know what you think about the core question in the case. So you be our 13th juror. Log on to CourtTV.com and let us know if you think Gail Kutro is indeed guilty of murder. A large number of you, in fact, do. When we return from break, we'll have more of the case of the daycare owner charged with murdering 2 infants and assaulting another.
Deep in the Florida woods,
Whoever was doing this was gaining these people's confidence.
a drama of darkness
When he takes the mask off, you see the true monster that he is.
and a desperate hunt. The Hog Trail Murders. Tonight at 10, only on Court TV.
playmate Dorothy Stratton.
She is something rather special.
Then,
I think Selena trusted Yolanda too much.
and Gianni Versace had it all.
Andrew went after Versace for the headline.
Fatal Attractions on Hollywood and Crime. Tonight at 7:30 on Court TV.
This is the PC that gets through homework at the speed of an Intel Pentium 3 processor that powers the ideas that come to life on a bright, vivid monitor and print out in full color. This is the compact Presario 5000T with one-touch internet access that for just $8.99 lets your family see the whole world wider. Call 1-888-921-6714 and add a compact IJ300 color printer for $1.
These binoculars let you see a distant bird up close. But how well can you hear it? Now get sonic hearing with Sonic Ears. It's like having binoculars for your ears. Imagine being able to hear sounds that other people can't, or listening to a joke clear across the room. Sonic Ears is so small, it's the size of a pager, and it clips conveniently to your belt. The button-type headphones fit comfortably in your ears like a personal stereo. No one ever needs to know that you have sonic hearing. Now you can sit in the balcony and hear like you're in the front row orchestra. Take part in seminars and lectures without missing a word. Join in any conversation even if you're in another room. And keep track of children as they wander off to play. Sonic Ears picks up and amplifies sounds up to 30 yards away. You can watch TV without turning up the volume and even watch in bed without disturbing others. Your Sonic Ears amplify sounds up to 50 decibels, and there's even a volume control so you can set just the level you want. With Sonic Ears, you might even hear a few things that may surprise you.
Wait till Dad sees the new fishing reel I just got him for his birthday.
You'll hear things you've never heard before when you start to experience the world with Sonic Hearing. And here's the best part. You'd expect to pay $40, even $50. But Sonic Ears is yours for only $19.95. If it doesn't give you the most dynamic hearing you've ever enjoyed, return it for a complete refund. Now you can hear distant sounds you never thought possible. Don't wait to experience Sonic Hearing. Have your credit card ready and order your Sonic Ears now.
To order your Sonic Ears, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-360-5400 or send check or money order for $19.95 plus $5.95 shipping and handling to Sonic Ears, 6960 Eastgate Boulevard, Lebanon, Tennessee. But for quicker service, call 1-800-360-5400. That's 1-800-360-5400.
Gail Kutros is under redirect examination by her own attorney, is trying to shore up her testimony after cross-examination. Now, what you're about to hear takes a bit of explanation, and that is there was a case in which she is accused, one of these three cases, of shaking a baby and causing brain damage. He didn't die. It turned out that she had given a sworn statement after that incident occurred saying that the child had been ill. And that she was worried about the child prior to the time that the child fell ill and was taken to the emergency room. But the prosecutor got from the mother's child some report cards that this daycare center sends about every day, and it turns out that in the report cards that Gail Kutro had written on this child, on the days leading up to the child becoming very ill, she had said he was quite normal and things were going, he seemed to be just fine. So there's a discrepancy between what she said in her sworn statement and what the report card said. Now on redirect, you'll see that she attempts to explain that discrepancy.
He asked you about the report card on June 21st?
Yes,
regarding
sir.
Asher Marin? You were here during Catherine Mayer's testimony, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Does she agree with you that you asked her?
Yeah, I object. Was good for the, you know, he wouldn't allow, you wouldn't allow me, he wouldn't allow me to talk about other people's testimonies and agree or disagree. I asked the same rules apply.
Yes, sir. I sustain that.
Did you inform Catherine Mayer that there were problems or you had concerns over her child's health on June 21st?
Yes, sir, that I was concerned.
Mr. Mr. Gasser went through this exercise about recording people's descriptions and putting them away in a drawer, and then asking you 7 weeks later to go ahead and describe what they were wearing, which would be more accurate.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, on August 18th, when you signed that affidavit, that was your memory at that point in time.
That's what I remembered, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And the cards would be what's stored away in the drawer, right?
Right.
The report cards. And the cards, and since you did actually speak with the parents whose children you cared for, didn't you?
Yes, sir, every day.
The cards and your verbal communications with the parents would be the best recollection of how they were, right?
Yes, sir. If I had a real concern, they were called.
Okay. And if you had a real concern, you'd sit out on the front porch with the child in your arm and ask the mother, has your child ever acted like this before?
That's one of the reasons I was on the porch.
And she would agree with you that you indeed did ask her that?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Mr. Gasser asked you whether you had access, whether you were ever alone with Asher Mayer on June 9th and June 10th. Yeah, right?
Sir?
Mr. Gasser asked you whether you were ever alone with Asher Mayer on June 9th, June 10th.
Probably for a few seconds.
Yeah. You're alone with other kids during those days?
Every day.
Okay. Your conversation with Miss Daniel, Mr. Daniels, did y'all just sit down and talk about Ashland Daniels' death, or did you sit and talk about Ashland Daniels some?
Ashland, them, the home, different things.
Spend some time with them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Discuss other times, maybe reminisce? a little
Yes,
bit?
sir.
What was your emotional state like then?
We were all very sad.
Sitting there taking notes?
No, sir.
They weren't either.
No, sir.
You denied telling today Miss Daniel or Mr. Daniel that you put Ashland down.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Notice Mr. Gasser didn't point out any difference in your testimony. You denied that during the last trial, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Gasser made some big deal about the conversation between you and Renee Barefoot, and the fact in the first trial on page 22, 23, you don't remember a conversation of that nature. And that was your testimony?
None.
Then? Do you remember one now?
No, sir.
Is there any difference between your memory then than there is now?
It didn't happen.
Okay. So you didn't discuss SIDS with Rose Bozard?
No,
This woman
sir.
that makes all these notes?
We never even discussed these two deaths.
Okay. We don't have any notes from Rose Bozard indicating she discussed Sid's deaths with you, do we? Have you seen any?
No, sir.
Remember any? Okay. Asked you if you denied telling Suzanne Pope about lying on Parker's grave, and you denied that.
Yes, sir.
You denied that last trial, too, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
He asked you about Suzanne Pope last trial, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Didn't ask you anything about this conversation about a death of a child of yours that Suzanne Pope remembered this time around, did he?
No, sir.
Okay. So evidently you knew about Suzanne Pope in the last trial and hadn't heard anything from her about this so-called death from a heart problem that she testified to at this trial.
Right.
Figure if you knew that, he might have asked you about that last trial?
I'll stipulate I didn't know about it, Your Honor. Very good. He's asking all these questions about me.
All right.
Asked you about the other funerals you went to.
Yes, sir.
Any of these other funerals you went to that he asked you about relate to children that you cared for?
No, sir.
I mean, by cared for, I mean took care of, nurtured,
No,
loved?
sir.
Okay. Let me show you 4 photographs there and ask you if you recognize those.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what those photographs are?
2 are of my husband's aunt's grave, and 2 are of my husband's grandmother.
Of your husband's what?
Grandmother.
And what is your husband's grandmother condition in these photographs?
She's deceased.
Taken in the casket?
Yes.
Where were these photographs kept?
In a photo album in our home.
Okay. You'd shown these to me earlier, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you want to bring your husband's grandmother's photograph up here to show the jury?
No, sir, I did not.
You want to bring up photographs of other graves to show the jury?
No, sir.
I object for relevancy if she pulled them out of her photo album in 1999. And what's the relevancy?
Where were they kept in 1993?
In a photo album with our children as young children. That's where they were, because my husband's grandmother died 2 months after my daughter was born. It was in chronological order.
And where was the photo album kept?
In one of the closets.
Was that closet in your house on July 14th, 1993?
Yes, most definitely.
That's when the search took place at your house?
Yes.
Did you have photos of other grave sites in your house on July 14th, 1993?
Yes, sir.
Did you have photos of other deceased people in your house on July 14th, 1993?
Yes, sir.
Now, we have to put that in context, because if you don't know the story, you wonder what it is he's asking about this woman having photographs of the grave sites of the grandparents of her husband and other grave sites around. Well, it turns out that when the police searched her home, which is, of course, the daycare center, too, they found pictures of the grave sites of these 2 children who had died in her care, and they thought it was a little excessive, and it was almost, according to the prosecutor, it was almost like a little shrine, and they thought, again, this was an indication that she has the cast of mind where she likes to dwell on this so that she can get sympathy for it. Now, Trevor, after all of it, this is now the end of the redirect. How would you, if you were the defense lawyer there, how would you feel you'd fared?
Not too well, Fred, I'm afraid. Not too well. What I would want to point out is that there was a previous diagnosis of SIDS for each of the children who died.
That's right.
And although I know it's
which basically is saying we don't know what killed them.
But we also know that there is a lot of medical information that shaking alone is not sufficient to cause the death of a child, by and large. There must be some other input. There must be some other object. That child.
Well, I think they think she smothered him.
Well, there is no evidence of that. Yeah. There really is no hard evidence. See, this is where the defense counsel, I think, was hit the mark right in the head when he said that the prosecution's case is based on suspicion, rumor, and innuendo.
Oh, I disagree. I think, of course, shaking can cause apnea type of reactions, which is a breathing problem. And I think the experts testified that a severe shaking could have caused the death of those children. It's not something that took a physical appearance, no outward appearance, but certainly the shaking alone can and does very often cause children's deaths.
But there are other experts out there who are equally renowned who will say that the shaking alone is not sufficient. There must be some contact with some hard object. And so if you have those experts on either side refuting each other, they pretty much cancel each other out.
Well, it depends on how good the expert is and how you know. I really do think that with Shaken Baby, it's pretty established that a severe shaking can cause neurological damage and death.
By the way, we're about to have closing arguments here before we turn to that. What do you think? Now, he said he kind of shook his head over how badly it went for the defendant here. What's your evaluation?
Again, she's been characterized as a liar. I think her attorney in his questions on redirect showed much more emotion than she did. I think a jury is looking to see someone who is really trying to deny this and to show emotion. How could you think I would kill babies of all things? And I didn't see that in her at all. So I think she fared poorly.
You're absolutely right. And I think also, she should have appeared more matronly. And this is why I brought up the comment rather about the makeup. I realize makeup is an integral part of our society. There's no question about it. We all use it. As a matter of fact, we use them today. However, in this particular instance, that heavy makeup under the eye and over the eye and different parts of her face, in addition to the way she's dressed, does not make her appear to be as matronly as I think she should have. It's sitting in that position. If I were her counsel, believe me, she would have been dressed down and no makeup.
But in any event, her testimony is over, and she did not look matronly, or she didn't look as matronly as Trevor Gurrell would have had her appear. What we're going to do is take a break here. We come back, the closing arguments to the jury will begin with the defense leading off.
Tonight on Mugshots, Richard Speck.
His goal was to kill them all, and he killed them all.
There's a lot of Richard Speck in all of us. We just have the ability to control it. Nobody was safe, no matter what their circumstances.
It was a slaughter. He had no mercy on none of them girls.
Court TV brings you the true story of Richard Speck, plus an interview with the only living witness to the massacre on Mugshots, tonight at 8 p.m. on Court TV.
Wear contacts? New Visine for contacts does more than re-wet your lenses. It really, really refreshes your eyes. New Visine for contacts gets the dry out when contacts are in.
Now, every time you brush, you can get a massage. The new Crest Advanced Care toothbrush has multi-level cleaning bristles, plus soft massaging tips to help keep gums healthy. New Advanced Care from Crest.
Because there's more to being a woman. There's Summer's Eve feminine care products, deodorant spray, powder, and feminine wash. Summer's Eve, enjoy being a woman.
I have to be ready. I have to commit to doing it. I have to take control and take charge of my own life.
Ask your doctor about Meridia or call 1-888-4-MERIDIA.
I'm ready.
Ow! I feel good. I knew that I would. I feel good. I knew that I would.
Senecod Children's Laxative Syrup is so chocolatey delicious, you can give it alone, in milk, or over ice cream. Getting your kids to feel better has never been easier. Senecod Children's Laxative Syrup. It's the natural vegetable laxative that's delicious.
Are you near a phone? Can you take down a number? Then call for some of the best life insurance rates in years from a respected insurer, Protective Life Insurance Company. For $100,000 coverage, a 35-year-old man could now pay less than $10 a month. A 45-year-old man, less than $15 a month. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. So act now. For your free quote, call Matrix Direct, 1-800-887-8751.
It's time to experience a sensuous bath spa right at home. The most powerful compact ever. The easy-to-store Conair Water Jet Spa that transforms your tub into an invigorating experience. The Conair Water Jet Spa.
It's one of the world's best beauty secrets. Steam Mist for skin and Conair Nose for hair, too. Steam and shine. It heats instantly, styles, and shines. Keep your hair steaming and beautiful with Steam and Shine from Conair.
Now, is that photograph?
Yes,
What's that a picture of?
my babies.
Gail Kutro ran a daycare center until the unthinkable happened. 2 infants died and another became brain damaged. South Carolina prosecutors say Kutro caused the tragedy. And welcome back to Court TV. I'm Fred Graham. She's charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of assault with intent to kill. But this is not her first time on trial. Back in 1994, Gail Kutro was tried and convicted of the murder of 4-month-old Ashlyn Daniel, the second baby who died while in her care. But in 1998, the South Carolina Supreme Court reversed that decision and ordered a new trial. So now she's back in court, this time facing a murder charge for the death of another 4-month-old and assault and battery of yet another infant. And we'll return to this case after we check in at the Court TV News Center where Sheila Steinbeck is standing by. Sheila?
Hello again, Fred, and hello, everyone. The Navy's still recovering from the 1991 tailhook sexual misconduct scandal, maybe reliving that nightmare. The Navy's investigating an allegation service members attending a convention of the Tailhook Naval Aviators Organization in Reno, Nevada, last week made inappropriate physical contact with a civilian woman. The 1991 tailhook scandal involved a gauntlet of drunken servicemen groping women in a Las Vegas hotel. It ended with the dismissal of the Navy's civilian chief. Former Los Alamos scientist Wen-Ho Lee will be released from jail but will remain under constant surveillance. A federal judge has agreed to free Lee on $1 million bail. U.S. District Court Judge James Parker says the government's case does not have what he calls the persuasive character necessary to keep Lee in jail. Under the judge's plan, Wen-Ho Lee would have to stay in his New Mexico home under surveillance and could leave only in the company of an attorney. For another hearing on the matter is scheduled Tuesday. Lee is accused of mishandling U.S. nuclear secrets by transferring restricted data to unsecured computers. We're asking you to get involved with our 13th juror question of the day. Should Wen-Ho Lee have been granted bail? 35% voting yes, 65% voting no. It stayed the same throughout the day. Log on to the Court TV website at courttv.com. Cast your vote. We'll give you an update throughout the afternoon. The man known as Dr. Death is denied release from prison while he appeals his second-degree murder conviction. Yesterday, a Michigan judge refused a bond request for Dr. Jack Kevorkian. Kevorkian's attorney says his 72-year-old client, whose health is frail, should be freed during the appeals process. Last year, Kevorkian was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison for the assisted suicide of a patient who had Lou Gehrig's disease. A driver has been arrested in connection with a recent accident that sent 83-year-old Tilly Tudor's car over a bridge. You'll recall the feisty grandmother survived in a snake-infested swamp for 3 days before she was discovered and rescued. Scott Campbell allegedly rear-ended Tudor's car, sending it over the bridge. He's charged with leaving the scene of an accident which resulted in injuries and filing a false police report. A lawyer who aims at bankrupting hate groups is going after the Aryan Nation. Attorney Morris Dees from the Southern Poverty Law Center is representing a mother and son who were attacked by security guards for the white supremacist group. In 1998, the Keenans family were driving through woods in Idaho when their car backfired. Guards at the nearby Aryan Nation's compound mistook the noise for gunshots. They fired at the Keenans' car and assaulted them. Mother and son are seeking compensatory and punitive damages. Now, after a 4-year legal battle, a Kentucky jury has acquitted actor Woody Harrelson of misdemeanor marijuana possession charges. Harrelson was caught growing hemp, part of the cannabis plant, which he claims is for industrial use only. Appearing on Court TV's Crier Today earlier, Harrelson praised hemp's economic possibilities.
The plan was to both test the law and to bring some attention to the importance of industrial hemp and its distinction from marijuana. Industrial hemp represents a way to revolutionize the economy because it can, Popular Mechanics said in 1938, there's like 25,000 different uses for it. It's a miracle plant.
Harrelson has investments in a hemp clothing company and advocates the use of hemp for paper to save trees. Well, that's it for now. I'm Sheila Steinbeck in the Court TV News Center. Let's return to Fred Graham in the studio. Fred?
Thank you, Sheila. And we return to the case of South Carolina versus Gail Kutro. It's now time for closing arguments. First to speak is her counsel, Doug Strickler, for the defense.
Mr. Foreman. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. What kind of world do we live in? kind of world do we live in where children can be abused and can be killed? Because there's no doubt that that does happen. What kind of world do we live in than what we have here for your consideration passes as proof? And that's what I'd like to talk with you about. I'm not going to talk about legal definitions of murder. Mr. Gasser knows the law and expressed them perfectly correctly. His Honor will charge you on those. I talk with you about at the beginning of the case, though, what the state had to prove. Two things they have to prove. One, that something happened. Something happened to each of these children. First thing. Second thing they have to prove is that if something happened, Gail Kutro did it. If they prove those things, we can sit down and argue all day over what the correct charge is. Something happened, and if so, Gail did it. That's what has to be proved. What evidence do we have of that? Evidence do we have of that? What is present for your consideration here and from the testimony relating to those two issues? I'm not talking about suspicion. I'm not talking about innuendo. I'm not talking about rumor, and I'm not talking about gossip. I'm talking about evidence. Well, as told you at the start, no one saw Gail do anything. There's no testimony in this record that she ever admitted to anyone doing anything to these children. There is no evidence in this record that she did do anything to these children. What kind of world do we live in? We have a world where red flags go up. And they should. Dr. Smiley, during his testimony, Monday. Red flags in this case, you bet. What do red flags do? They mean you need to take a closer look. He agrees completely. I took that closer look. I want to talk with you more about that. Dr. Shapiro, Tuesday afternoon. You know, the statistician that testified that didn't talk about numbers? Okay? Numbers are great, he says. All Dr. Hauser's numbers that he talked about and talked about and talked about, they're all good numbers. If I want to come in and change the numbers, I can come in and change the numbers and make it less. But the thing is, numbers are past behavior to predict what happens in the future. If that's the only evidence you have, they're valid. Once you get evidence, then you need to look at the evidence. And there's a number here that raised the red flag, and that's number 3. A death, an injury, and another death. Okay, that's the red flag. Needs to be examined more closely. May even require a trial. But once you examine it closely and see there is nothing to support the fact that, 1, the children were injured, and 2, if they were injured, that Gail Kutro did anything. Then once you look at the evidence, then you lower the red flag and you judge the case and you return a verdict that speaks the truth. Here's the question before you. Whether or not this woman right here, this one right here, whether or not this woman has cared for children all of her life, who cares for them enough to keep pictures of her babies, has a family and children of her own, for some reason to seek attention, and we'll talk about that, this Munchausen stuff, a little later, to seek attention or whatever reason, decides in 1993 to shake a baby. Well, was it smother and shake a baby? Or was it just smother a baby? Or was it cause diffuse axonal injury, whatever on earth that is? Okay? Because here's the first point as far as the evidence that anything happened. The state of South Carolina, the government, whose job it is to convince you all that something did happen, first of all, doesn't know what happened themselves. Well, it could have been shaking. Could have been shaking with impact that doesn't show up. Could have been shaking and smothering. Could have been just been smothering. Could have been this diffuse axonal injury. They don't know. Their experts testified to all those possible explanations. Now, if the prosecution, if the government, whose job it is to present and prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, does not know what happened, how can you be asked to make that determination? They don't know. I'll submit to you there's a real good reason they don't know. Because they can't reconcile the evidence in this case. All they can do is fall back on the red flag, which just starts the investigation. They can't deal and reconcile with the evidence in the case.
Defense Attorney Doug Strickler, building up a real head of steam there. We're going to take a break. We come back and we'll go back into his closing argument.
Closing comment tonight.
Driving while black or brown isn't against the law.
Racial profiling. We've heard all about police stopping drivers simply because of race, but tonight the ACLU fights back. But what do the country's police have to say about the whole thing? And it's Friday Night Celebrity Rap with Dennis Rodman, Martha Stewart, Eminem, Ellen DeGeneres, and Anne Heche. Pros and cons tonight, 6 o'clock, Court TV.
What is the secret? I am carrying your brother's child.
At least you'll feel smart when the car insurance bill arrives. Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Am I on? Geico Direct could save you hundreds of dollars on car insurance. Result?
Smaller bill.
Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more.
There's one burglary every 14 seconds. Because it only takes an instant for someone to become a victim, we can't afford to blink. That's why you need to call Brinks Home Security now. For over 140 years, the Brinks name has meant unblinking vigilance, guarding some of the world's most irreplaceable objects, including the first moon rocks and the Declaration of Independence. But there's no greater responsibility than protecting your family and home. That's why our state-of-the-art monitoring system keeps your home protected, whether you're there or whether you're not. We never blink. Call 1-800-GO-BRINKS and get a standard system installed, with more protection options available. Crime is just seconds away, so make the only choice. Brinks Home Security. Call now and get a standard system installed for just $99, plus a second keypad installed absolutely free. Brinks Home Security. We never blink.
Do you need to learn how to operate a computer? Hi, I'm John Scherer, CEO and founder of Video Professor. You know, our product is quick and it's easy to learn with, and you can try it for free. You know, over the years, millions of people have learned how to operate their computer using our product. We get happy letters every day from people thanking us. But the most rewarding thing for me is having people stop me on the street and telling me how easy it was to learn with our product. If you just want to learn how to run a computer once and for all, save yourself a lot of time and energy, try our product Let me show you how simple this is. You put this CD in your CD tray, the lesson plays right on your computer. It works just like a VCR. Just follow the step-by-step instruction. I'm so confident this product will work for you, I'm going to send it to you free. The reason I'm going to do this is because I know once you try our product, you'll come back to us for all your computer learning needs.
Choose any of these complete lessons free. Call 1-800-922-5354.
Defense Attorney Doug Strickler continues his closing argument to the jury.
I want to get to just a couple other things. This Munchausen by proxy, whatever that may be, evidently it's got something to do with the fact that Gail went to doctors. Well, we talked with Miss Powell about the suspicious nature of her medical visits. Talked with her for a while. God help each and every one of us if a medical record like that can be used as somehow evidence of some evil mind. 18 visits in 10 years, 5 years, she didn't even go to the doctor. Supposedly you're wanting, with this Munchausen stuff, you're wanting contact with doctors. And we can believe that or not if you want. I mean, they got testimony about it, that's fine. Let me see. Went for a pelvic and breast exam. Pretty suspicious. We all ought to be concerned if that's evidence of guilt of anything. Had a swollen hand. Okay? That's pretty guilty. You know, had a car wreck. Had a bladder infection or whatever it was. Had a couple of episodes of depression, one related to the death of Parker Colson. God help us all if that is proof. God help each and every person in this courtroom. We're called to justify ourselves against that kind of evidence. Weird treatments of her children. I mean, that's all. That's the only reference that was made. But this is Dr. Oppoven when she listed those 16 things that were spooky. Yeah. Had a child that the hospital diagnosed with apnea and was on a monitor for about a year. Had another child that had an episode, was taken to the hospital, put on a monitor, was on it for about a year. You know, this is one of those no-win situations. If you don't do something about those children, then you're abusing children. If you do something about those children and address their medical concerns, and somehow that becomes evidence of some evil mind. God help us all. What kind of world are we living in? What kind of world are we living in when that passes for proof? Here's what else passes for proof. The woman you saw on the stand kept pictures of Parker Colson's grave. Had a picture of Parker Colson. The woman you saw on the stand had a picture of a child who died while he was in her care. And that is Munchausen by proxy evidence. That's evidence of motive. That's evidence she was out murdering children. I want, first of all, for anyone, any witness, to explain when these things happened. When did these things happen? Let me see. On the 4th, I mean, even if Gail, if you accept Gail's version, she had 12 people there. 12 children there. She's wandering in the middle of the room with all the other kids and start shaking, or smothering, or whatever the state claims happened. On the 9th, 12 kids there. 5-year-old. Well, I mean, I'm sure it can be explained. Well, while Josh had the toddlers out in the backyard, Gail snuck around through the house shaking children. When and where did it happen? Well, that question cannot be answered, even if you believe there were injury. Well, it can be inferred. You can have your innuendo, you can have your suspicion, you can have your rumor, and you can have your gossip, and you can have your Munchausen by proxy. If that passes for evidence in the courts of this state, God help us all.
Ridicule for the evidence upon which the state is attempting to have one of its citizens found guilty of murder. Joanne, how do you answer a thing like that?
Well, I think he's making some very, very good points, but I think I expect that the prosecution is going to come back and going to answer that the Munchausen is a motive that that they need not prove. What they have to prove is that these children were killed in her home and were killed by her. So even though he's attacking the Munchausen, again, I think it's just the motive that he's talking about to explain.
But what you just said, they have to prove that they were killed in his home. He says that they don't even know what killed these children.
But we do know that all three children walked through that or were brought into that home and came out either dead or severely brain damaged. And we do know, which he said, which I found very interesting, is that 2 of her children had to be on apnea monitors for the years in their life.
So that is to monitor them at night, so if they mysteriously stop breathing, then an alarm will go off.
So why is it in that one home when any child is in that home at 4 months of age doesn't survive?
Well, Joanne, that's very unfair. Merely because her own children may have some problem with sleep apnea is no reason to have such a drastic leap to suppose that now she's guilty of killing 2 children and seriously injuring another. You know, that's quite a leap. I think the best part of what we've seen thus far, his closing, was making reference to the fact that there were other children around, and children who were capable of speaking, and children who were capable of making observations. So how likely would it have been for her to commit these dastardly deeds of shaking or suffocating these babies with these other children in close proximity to where?
And some of them were as old as 5 years old.
Well,
she did admit, however, on cross-examination that she did have several times with each one of the children where she was alone. And at least for several seconds, shaking a baby is not something that takes 10 or 15 minutes to do. It's a few seconds.
Admittedly, but I would think shaking a baby like that, the baby would be screaming and carrying on, and chances are it would draw the attention of the other children. Moreover, Miss Kutro certainly did not have exclusive dominion and control over those children. They were allowed to go home, plus her husband, Josh, he was certainly an integral part of this operation.
Oh, I agree. Her husband, Josh, being there is a problem for the prosecution, but she does admit that she had the time and the opportunity to do this.
But it seems like such an odd thing for a person to do, and of course anyone who has this Munchausen syndrome by proxy has an odd mental makeup.
Correct.
But to sort of as a window of opportunity, all the other children leave the room, and you just go in there and you just shake them right. You know, the children haven't been crying, they haven't provoked you. It seems a rather odd thing for a person to do, even if their makeup is like this.
Well, that's why it's a syndrome where a person does this not with they don't want to hurt this child. They have no feeling to the child. They're doing it for a reason, to bring attention to themselves so they can gain the sympathy of being a parent or a caretaker. And that's the ultimate syndrome.
I want to ask you something here. Our time is almost up here, but within the next 2 hours, our viewers are going to hear what the jury decides here. And it's interesting to me to see that our viewers are coming down about 3 out of 4 saying that this woman is guilty. What do you make of that?
Well, I think one gets a sense that there's a lot of coincidence here. But remember, the people at home do not have to follow or function within legal parameters. They're saying, which many of us will probably say, gosh, this is too much of a coincidence. Yeah. But darn it, that's not sufficient to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. So it does seem, though, that either this case is a stronger case than some of us might think, or there's just something, is there something, now you specialized in these crimes against children. Does the average person, are they so revolted by this that they're just kind of inclined to strike out and find someone guilty?
I really don't think that that's true. These are the hardest cases in the world to try. Number one, because usually your children, your witnesses are children. And secondly, because there's so much emotion. So that is why this case, I'm sure, went to trial, because it's not an easy case. It's not an easy case for either side. Most of these cases plead out. Nobody wants to be.
But it was a much easier case for the prosecution only because of the ruling made by the judge, where the prosecution was allowed to explore the one component associated with Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that is the child abuse component, but the defense was precluded from considering and presenting evidence of the psychiatric component, which I think is equally important.
Well, in any event, we have a large number of our viewers persuaded that she's guilty. The viewers are going to find out what the jury concludes about that within the next 2 hours, but our time is up. Thank you for helping us look at both sides of this, prosecutor side, defense side, and we're going to get the result within the next 2 hours. Stay tuned. Ricky Kleeman will be right here after this message.
Kelsey Grammer's appetite for drugs and alcohol.
It scared me.
Matthew Broderick's devastating accident.
He asked me, had I hurt anyone?
And Hugh Grant's revealing insights.
I'm suspicious of myself in Hollywood.
Moving violations on Hollywood and Crime, tonight at 7.
It was the ultimate assignment.
Plan a perfect murder.
But it's the teacher who's about to learn a deadly lesson.
Am I a suspect?
Pierce Brosnan stars Murder 101. Tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern on Court TV.
My daughter doesn't know I can't pay my bills. She doesn't know about the bill collectors calling. But she does know when I am sad. And I am not sad, despite all the debt I'm in, because I found a way out.
If you have a debt problem, then call Profina Debt Solutions, the largest, most experienced credit counseling service. Profina doesn't make loans. Instead, we work with your creditors to lower your monthly payments. In just 30 minutes, over the phone, we can help you avoid bankruptcy and get the bill collectors off your back. We're a non-profit confidential service. Just get your bills together and call.
I'm solving my money